Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Storytime with Kate Meszaros. Today, I'm going to be sharing a wonderful book called Me, Jane. And it's a story, it's a nonfiction story, actually. So it's a true story about a wonderful woman named Jane Goodall. Recently, I've been interested in going to our local Toledo Zoo a lot just to watch some of the animals, particularly the elephants, because we have a new baby elephant, and also the gorillas. The gorillas are my absolute favorite. There's a young gorilla named Michael who I love to watch just to see what he's going to do next. And it reminded me of when I was in college, I learned a lot about Jane Goodall's work. She used to study and still does, but was actually more involved in being in the wild with chimpanzees and studying how they behave. I thought this would be a great opportunity to share more information about Jane Goodall and her work, especially if you love animals as much as I do. So let's enjoy this book together. It's called Me, Jane, and the story is by a wonderful author named Patrick McDonnell. And this book actually has real pictures in it. There is Jane when she was young. Do you know why this book would be called Me, Jane? Have you ever heard of the um the TV show Tarzan? And Tarzan's friend was Jane. She would say, Me, Jane. Jane had a stuffed toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. She cherished Jubilee and took him everywhere she went. And Jane loved to be outside. Me too. I would take my toys outside all the time. I still do. I still take Aditi and Leo outside. Can you see my little kitty toy right there? That's Aditi. She watched birds making their nests, spiders spinning their webs, and squirrels chasing one another up and down trees. Jane learned all that she could about the animals and plants she studied in her backyard and read about in books. She learned a lot about different animals. I see all different kinds of animals, fox and fish, insects, four-leaf clovers, all kinds of things. You may want to pause this page and see how many animals and plants you can find too. Look at this. There are no words here other than like what the notes that she would take. I know that Jane was very interested in studying how animals live, the way that their bodies move, what they eat, how they survive in the wild. And she created a group of kids who were interested in animals at the same time, and it was called the Alligator Society. Isn't that wonderful? One day, curious Jane wondered where eggs came from, so she and Jubilee snuck into Grandma Nut's chicken coop, hid behind some straw, and stayed very still and observed the miracle. I used to take care of chickens when I lived in California. And I wasn't as patient as Jane to sit and watch them lay eggs, but we knew when they did, because they would always let you know. They'd let out a cackle, cackle, cackle. It was a magical world full of joy and wonder, and Jane felt very much a part of it. It's a neat picture. Jane often climbed her favorite tree, which she named Beech. She would lay her cheek against its trunk and seem to feel the sap flowing beneath the bark. I love to climb trees too. Look, there's Jubilee climbing with her. Jane could feel her own heart beating, beating, beating. With the wind in her hair, she read and reread the books about Tarzan of the Apes, in which another girl, also named Jane, lived in the jungles of Africa. Jane dreamed of a life in Africa too, a life living with and helping all animals. It would be such a beautiful place to live. Sure, there would be challenges, but I think it would be a beautiful experience. At night, Jane would tuck Jubilee into bed and say her prayers and fall asleep. To awake one day, can you tell where she is? She's in a tent on a little cot. Guess where she is as a grown up? To her dream come true. And there's Jane as a grown up. And she would have, like I told you, she would observe chimpanzees. And there she is with one who's reaching out to touch her. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be a wonderful experience? So this is an easy reader. You can find this one at your local library, and you can take the time to read these two things. This is a little essay about Jane Goodall, and then this is a letter from her as well. So I'm going to put a link to this book at our local library, and then also a link to Amazon if you want to catch this book online. I'm going to be sharing another book about Jane Goodall in another video, and this one is called The Watcher. It tells a little bit more about how Jane became an environmental scientist in Africa. So it gives a little bit more of her story. And I'll put a link to that video in the description below as well. So until I see you next time, stay curious about nature and have a great day.